Today we are flying the A10 Thunderbolt 2. This is the twin 64mm EDF by Freewing. First thing I want to comment on the plane is the outstanding ground handling I've noticed. Landing gear setup is just absolutely perfect, especially on these smoother surfaces. The small wheels aren't bothered the least little bit by our concrete here at Thunderbird Field. But the plane taxis well, tracks straight, everything's nice. And if you noticed just a minute ago, the takeoff was as smooth as any plane I have ever seen in my life. Plane tracks really well in the air, stable in this 10, 12 mile an hour windy day here in Texas. Kind of a gusty day too. I don't know if you can hear a little bit of the wind noise underneath the voiceover, but it was definitely a gusty day, and it's really hard to even tell by watching the plane fly. So there was a full throttle pass going by. This is not the fastest EDF you can buy. There's definitely faster planes in any of the traditional fighters, your F-18s, F-16s. They'll all be faster than this. But I chose the A-10 because I just love the history behind it. This is a scale flyer, and it's meant to be flown in a scale-like manner. That roll you just saw was with the stock aileron throws turned down just a little bit. I found the factory recommended throws to be great for everything but the ailerons. To me, they were just a bit too sensitive, so I would recommend users who choose this airplane to turn those down maybe 30-40% from what the manual recommends. Planes like this, there's always the question of how beginner appropriate they are. This is a fairly heavy airplane for its size. Because of that, it doesn't really glide very much. It has a pretty very steep glide slope, in fact. And so because of that, it has to land with some power on. It's not going to be very forgiving of letting it get too slow and stall. Also, not forgiving of pulling up too fast on takeoffs. So I wouldn't put this plane as someone's first airplane for sure. However, if you have a good feel for recognizing stalls, you have a good instinct for what to do, how to deal with them, bring a little bit more power on, and you can see that happening. Bring power on, lower your nose, and you feel that you are able to recognize stalls as they happen, then this plane shouldn't be too hard to fly at all. It is stable, responsive, nice and smooth. So there was about a half throttle pass. That's about as slow as the plane is capable of flying without losing altitude. And so now I'm going to bring it in on a landing approach, and you'll get to see what happens when you let it get too slow on landing. There was a pretty gnarly tip stall there. I was able to recover and absolutely grease it in. Gorgeous landing. I did a good job there. Second takeoff. This is the second flight of the day. I pulled it up a little bit faster than I did on the first one. No problems at all. I can't say enough how much I enjoy flying this plane. The A-10 has always been a favorite of mine among the various Air Force fighters, but because of the way it serves our Air Force, and it's such a unique design. So a lot of this is just me really enjoying the history of this plane. But from a purely flying standpoint, this thing penetrates the wind well. It does aerobatics reasonably well. You're not going to make 500-foot circles by any means with it, but it'll do loops, it'll do rolls, it'll do an Immelman and a split S, and it'll do the basic aerobatic maneuvers you want. So just to get out and burn holes in the sky, it's not a bad choice at all. And I'll be bringing it in on a landing shortly. Again, what I found is that the A10 lands fairly well with about a 1/3 throttle or so coming in on approach. If you do a nice shallow approach, kind of get the speed stabilized, 1/4 to 1/3 throttle is about where it needs to be to make a good landing. So here I come around, gonna make another low pass. So if you're in the market for a nice twin EDF model or just interested in the A10 Thunderbolt, I think this one fits nicely in the market. It's not so big that it's hard to transport, doesn't need to be taken apart to carry out to the flying field, but it's large enough to handle the wind and handle pretty much any kind of situation you could throw at it. So thanks for watching, and I've had a great time flying it and reviewing it.